The Core Show. I am your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. We are updating you on the latest advance with the Iran war. So let's find out what's been going on.
Got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is
I think this is a good time for me to weigh in on some of the things that she's brought to the table. It is true that if you have a bunch of yes men around you, when you need to make a decision, you're never really going to get a critical challenge to what it is that you're doing. And it's always good to get two different perspectives. It does seem as if Trump does not have people around him that favors challenging him. And I think whenever he feels challenged, that is, something that maybe makes him feel as if he needs to get rid of the dissenting voice. Now, I do think, and this doesn't get spoken about him as much, but I do think that Trump admires Xi Jinping because of the type of control he has. I can remember a video Trump did some time ago where he was like, Xi Jinping wanted something and everyone was on cue with exactly what he wanted. And I think there's a part that Trump appreciates about having absolute power where that word is the last word and that's the only word and everyone hearkens to please. So in a way, I think maybe Trump subconsciously tries to create an environment where that is the case for himself. Now, in some instances, it makes sense. I mean, in the boardrooms, in construction, where he made his living, that may have been a very sensible approach. But I think in politics, you do need to have some various voices. And the voices he used to have, like the Tucker Carlsons and a few others who used to be influential, he's totally attacking those voices. And I don't know why, because Trump comes across to me as the type of guy who likes different input from different people. He doesn't come across to me as the type of guy who wouldn't want the input. But it does seem that there's been some changes. He's more of a hardliner now, and he has certain voices, and he's taking stronger positions against people who do raise concerns about how he's handling things. So it remains to be seen how it all will play out, but it could be detrimental. Okay, I want to weigh in on Pete Hegseth, the director of war. Nothing against Pete. Obviously, I thought it was necessary for Trump to get some outsiders to kind of ensure that his agenda got done. But there's something about Pete that doesn't come across as genuine to me. I don't know if it's because he's trying to be bombastic in the way that he presents his arguments, but I think the position he holds requires him to be a bit more poised and a little bit more measured is the word I would use. And it's almost like he wants to infuse confidence, and I get it, but I think it comes across as if, he's just, it comes across as a bit put on is the word I would say. And this isn't an attack on him, but I just feel like the way he carries his message does not give me the sense that he's a credible person that, should be taken seriously in that sense. Because, he talks in a way with that saying, well, this and we will do this measure and we'll do that. And it comes across to me as if he's not serious. Now, on the flip side, let me give a contrast. Marco Rubio, this isn't to wide his rave, but he comes across like an adult, a well-spoken adult who gives it to you straight. He sounds like a serious person who's not just going to say what you want to hear, but he's going to level with you in a way. And I think that lends more credibility to him and his role. And it probably speaks as to why he's doing more than one role in the Trump administration. Whereas this guy, I get it, he's Trump's guy, but dude, you're at war and you're potentially sending people's kids to go die for something that a lot of them don't understand why they're involved in. And you're coming across and making bombastic statements like, we will do this and we will do that. And I get it, but it's really not his place to sell the war. That's really kind of Donald Trump and a few other people's place. I think it's more his place to execute the tactics as the head of the Department of War. And when he's being asked about it, he needs to be serious to say, okay, tactically, here's what's going on. And, here's what we're seeing. And I get the sense that he's still trying to sell the war. He's trying to give people the impression that we're this impenetrable fortress, that we don't have any losses, that we're winning at all costs, and it's only just 1 month. You're trying to get $200 billion for additional operations. It's been proven that the missiles that we're firing to, I guess, shoot down Iran's drones cost us far more money than theirs. And that is not sustainable. It is costly. And so, there's a part where people want you to speak as if you understand the magnitude of the situation, because now you're the guy who's in charge of who gets to go over there to die for this cause. So if somebody's a parent and they're watching you and they got a service member as their child, and you may be the guy who's deploying their child into harm's way, when you sound like that, it doesn't give people the impression that, their kid is in good hands. If you kind of understand my drift, it sounds like this is a boastful guy who sees my child as just a pawn for a cause. He's not measured. He's not weighing the value of that person, that service member's life, and being reserved in terms of whether he makes certain decisions or not. And I get it. He's got to be, I guess, a symbol of strength for other service members. But I think, too, generally speaking, when you're more measured, it makes people feel like, okay, this guy, wouldn't put me in harm's way just to boost his ego. Or this is not about him looking good. This is really about the well-being of our people. And I know this guy served. I take nothing away from what he's accomplished in his military space, but he really skipped a lot of steps to get to the position he's in. And I think for other generals that has to take orders from him, when they see him talking like that, they're probably not thinking this dude has the demeanor of somebody that they should be taking orders from. So it's just something to think about. I don't know why, that's how it comes across to me. I think he needs to tone it down a little bit, be measured in terms of the way that you're talking about this. This is not like a video game. This is like real life. This is a real combat where people are being deployed to this area and they may potentially have to put their lives on the line for something we don't even know what the goal is here, right? Like, what are we doing over there, right? So to me, I just think he needs to tone it down a little bit. That's sort of the take that I'm getting from it. I don't know, how other people's perceiving it, but that's sort of where I'm coming from. All right.
Wondering, is it time to make my business official? With Busy, forming your LLC is simple, fast.
I think this was an interesting story with regards to the cuts with AI. Yes, the technology I think is useful, but every time you're programming a computer to essentially do the work of a human, I just feel like you are losing the human element of it, which is to say, you know, understanding human behavior um, is a key point, personally for me, in terms of doing business. It's a human to human interaction. I think we're kind of going overboard with all this AI stuff. Yes, there are instances where AI is wonderful and it helps in terms of gathering data, quickly doing certain things, trading. There's a number of things that AI is useful for. But I do think the reason why AI is useful is because someone had the skills to program the robot. You still have to maintain the robot. Now, yes, it's going to learn how to get information, and potentially even help teach itself some things. But I do believe that you can't completely eliminate the human element. That being said, some of these companies don't really care about that. Their AI is the new shiny toy, and they're going all in for it. I think it goes to say, for us as consumers and for us as potential workers in these firms, you have to ask yourself, what kind of firm are you aligning yourself with? Are you aligning yourself with a firm that cares about the human experience, like the people that help them grow to the space that they are? And I think it's interesting, if you're a tech company that needed people to help you get to where you are, in the moment you have a chance to enhance what you're doing with the technology, you cut the people off. That pretty much built you to got to where you are, to a point of success. So it tells you that a lot of these companies see people as indispensable or as dispensable um, tools that they can get rid of whenever and however they want to. They're not mindful that, hey, this person could have committed 10, 20, 30 years of their life helping us go from a insignificant company that's not known to a bigger company that is globally recognized. So it tells you, if you're in the marketplace and you're a potential employee, can you really align yourself with a company that has no real allegiance to you? And I think that's the part we all have to start looking at as people leave the workplace. Is your next firm that you're working for someone that cares about your well-being, that plans to ensure that you have a good life, or are you just a means to an end? And this is where people got to really put into consideration, why even go into a field where the moment somebody gets an opportunity to cut you off, they very well might choose to exercise that right and cut you off. So food for thought, but I'm not a big fan of Oracle making those cuts.
I just built a budgeting app.
What? How?
Base 44. Look, it pulls our expenses into one place. And
Okay, that was first post. Just kind of giving us the latest development in the Iran war and a few other topics that they covered. The last topic, I thought, with regards to the life and death industry, I actually think that that's a valid topic. A lot of times we have people signing up for things like bungee jumping, skydiving, parasailing, all these kind of, at your own risk type of things. And oftentimes you really don't know when the last time the equipment was inspected. So I don't even think that's an issue specific to just India. I just think across the board, people will travel to different places and try some of these adventures, really kind of putting their life in someone's hands. And you really don't know what inspections were done to ensure that the equipment is not faulty and that you are safe. So generally, my advice would be just to ensure you do your research, ensure you review, to ensure you ask certain questions, just to make sure, at least if you are going to do these things, that there's been recent inspections, that there's some sort of protocol set up that should there be an emergency, to potentially preserve and save your life, that you'll have that service available to you. Well, that's it for me. I try to do real world updates. You know, a lot of times with entertainment and different things, whether it's sports, people are having conversations about a ton of things, some more serious than others. And I just think, you know, we do need to know what's going on because it does have a direct effect on us. Everyone by now should have noticed prices have gone up for gas, prices have gone up for food, you know, and there's just things that is affecting our day-to-day lives simply because of decisions being made on the political front. So that's one of the reasons I like to showcase, use my platform, my show to kind of talk about the various events. Now, that's not to say we don't talk about other things like sports, politics, relationships, religion, and a bunch of other things that interest people. But I do think it's important for us to know what's happening real time, you know, with our leaders and, you know, what the state of our union is, you know. And it's always good to find a good source that you can rely on. As people know, a lot of people have bought out Western media that wants a certain narrative to go out. So there's a lot of news that you're not getting, you know, an unbiased feedback on both sides of the story. And so I try to reference a credible third-party source. I like First Post. You know, they're a publication based out in India, and they tend to cover global news across the world so that you kind of have an understanding of what's going on. And they'll also cover things happening in the U.S. as well. So for that reason, I like them. But I encourage you guys to, you know, find your own sources that you think are credible and useful for you, and get a balanced point of view or perspective of what's actually happening. With that said, that's it for me. I thank you guys for joining me for this morning's update. And I ask that if you're not already a subscribe member to like and subscribe and stay connected to the show, as your voice is important and we definitely want to hear what your opinion is. So with that said, have a blessed day until we speak again. God bless.